So it's Wednesday morning, and we're going to take a look to see what Misty, Mr., and Bitcoin did yesterday, and what we can tell maybe where it could be heading for today. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at Misty and see where it did go yesterday and where it could be going today with the help of Mr., as Mr. is the underlying of Misty. So let's just go ahead and jump right on into the Webull chart and let's check it out. Alright, so here we are on Misty, and as you can see, it did open yesterday at 18.7. It went as high as 1885, as low as 1827, before closing at 1835. So we did have a little bit of a pullback yesterday. So that gave us a little bit of a red candle today. And I also wanted to see, is there any kind of support lines or anything like that that Mr. and Misty could be setting on? And we'll draw those in for each of these here. I like to show it on Misty, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that Misty's at a support line, right? Because it's all running off of Mr. But the charts and the candles themselves do look very similar and do move a lot alike, right? So I don't see a problem in drawing in some lines here for Misty. So if I look at this, let's just draw a line here, and we're just going to put in a little support line at the bottom of this 1784 right here. So let's just do that right now. So I'll draw a line right here, and we'll go ahead and make sure that that's 1784, like that right there. Hit the done, and voila. We now have our line at 1784. We're going to say that that is our support line, and let's just see if it makes sense, right? So we're going to scroll on back, and we're going to see, is there other points where it actually hit that would make sense of why it is bouncing at that point. We did break below it here, but look at this over here, right there. We did come down, hit that same point, and went up, right? Over here, we did come down, we went down below it some, but it went on back up. So I think this support line right here could be a pretty good line, knowing that of course the 1710 is the support line below it, right? If we do break down below 1784, the 1710 would be the next support line. Now I'm going to flip it over to the adjusted chart. Let's just see where the Bollinger Band sets and where that RSI2 is setting currently for Misty. We'll flip it to adjusted. There we go. And I'm going to turn on the Bollinger Band, and I'm going to turn off that moving average that was already on. So as you can see here, that Bollinger Band is still somewhat widening out, right? So we'll see if this price here can stabilize and start either trading sideways at that point or start moving up. So as far as a buy for me for yesterday, I did not make a purchase yesterday because as you can see that the RSI2 here did not drop below that 10, even though the candle is on the bottom side of that Bollinger Band. I always like to look for that pullback on a buy-in. So to better understand where Misty is going or possibly going, let's take a look at MSTR. Okay, so here we are on MSTR, and I already have the Bollinger Band on for this one, and you can see it is on the bottom side of that Bollinger Band. Okay, so that part is good for a potential buy, but the RSI2, which is this yellow line down here, is not below my 10, so for me, it's not yet a buy. If it does drop on down and gets below that 10 and that candle is still toward the bottom side of that Bollinger Band, then I might end up buying a couple more shares of Mr. And the same would go with Misty, because if Mr. is down below that 10 and that candle is at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, I'd put a bet on it that Misty will also look the same as being at the bottom of that Bollinger Band and that RSI2 being below 10. So as far as Mr. goes, we did end up opening at 384.18. We went as low as 373.35, as high as 388.31. So it did move up quite nice, but then closed at 375.46. We did get a little bit of a red volume. The momentum bars here, notice this, it did go up slightly, right? So we'll see, can this momentum bar start decreasing again, or is it going to turn back down and start heading on further down? In case of that, we will see that price dropping on down. But if we can get that price to move on back up, then we'll see these momentum bars right here start decreasing and hopefully heading to the green bars, right? But if it comes on down and the RSI2 comes on down, then I'll just use that as a potential time to buy, right? I like to buy it on the low on a red day instead of buying while it's moving up, right? It is a difficult thing to do sometimes when you see it falling, because you always hear, don't try to catch a falling knife, right? Well, you don't know how far it's going to go down because we don't have a crystal ball. But if it is a stock that you are long on and you see upside in the future, then on pullbacks, why not buy, right? And that's the way I look at it. And in my opinion, I don't think Bitcoin is going anywhere. So therefore, since Mr. is primarily Bitcoin, right? They hold a very large sum of Bitcoin. So therefore, if I believe Bitcoin is going to continue to move up, then I'm going to continually average in on Mr. Now, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin's not going to have a pullback. That only means that as those times occur, then I can continually to buy a share or two of Mr. So speaking of Bitcoin, let's just see where Bitcoin sits currently and what it did yesterday. All right, so here we are on Bitcoin, and isn't this funny, right? These are those blocks we drew in yesterday. I put in those sellers right here, and I put those buyers in right here, right? All I was doing is just utilizing the wicks here for that box, right? And the wicks up here for that box. Those wicks kind of show you where the buyers and the sellers start kicking in to push that price, right? And yesterday, you can see we did come all the way down into the buyers, but what'd they do? They pushed it right back on up. And it went into the sellers, and what they do? They pushed it right back down. And where to end up? Somewhere right here in this comfort zone again, right? It is slightly below it, but again, this box is not perfectly drawn here. So you can tell that overall it is still right there in the middle, right there in that comfort zone, right? And so far today, looks like we did dip into the buyers again, and we were sitting in that comfort zone, and currently we are sitting in that comfort zone yet again. We are sitting at that 113.9K, and yesterday we did open at 114.2. We went as low as 112.6, as high as 115.1, and then of course closed at that 113.5. And that's pretty close about where we're at now, 113.9 currently. So you can see it just wants to stay right here in this comfort zone right now. and it will continually to find out which one of these are going to give up first, right? Is the sellers going to get exhausted first, or is it going to be the buyers that get exhausted? Only time will tell, but I thought this was pretty interesting that we drew these boxes in, and you can see that those candles are just wanting to stay right in here. Now eventually, like I said, it will break out or it will break down, and we'll find out which box gives it up first, right? And whichever one does, it will continually to move into that direction until it hits the next group of buyers or sellers, right? Because they're throughout here. We just drew the ones that are currently pushing this stock back and forth. And currently it is this area here and this area here. So very interesting, I think. Now, so far, currently, we do have a little bit of a green day. We did have a red day yesterday with a bit of indecision, right? We've got a long wick on top and a long wick on bottom. So it is, just as we were saying, fighting between the sellers and the buyers. And you can see it in this candle pretty clearly, right? In this one here, we'll see, does it end up to be the same way? Do we end up with a little thin body with a wick on top and a wick on bottom? If that's the case, we're still in that battle, right? And we still do not have a decision on which way it's going to go. But for the momentum bars here, you can see that it is decreasing slightly because we do have a green candle for today so far. And this is just Wednesday morning. Now keep in mind now, that MACD is still going down, right? And we still have a pretty good separation between that signal line and the MACD. But as this continues, this should start leveling off. And then in hopes that it moves back up and we can break through those sellers, right? That would be what we are looking for. Because if not, it will break through those buyers and eventually head on down. And the momentum bars will then start increasing as well. So for today, we will see what happens, but we do not have a clear direction quite yet. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, smash the like button. It'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.